I gathered up the biggest thought leaders in the fantasy and best ball space, and I said to them, your content is fine, you write good articles, you give good analysis, but I want the truth, damn it. I want to know, what do you believe in your heart of hearts this year? And look, some of them were hesitant. They said, Pete, I have this carefully crafted personal brand that I must protect. I can't tell you what I actually believe deep down. And I said, shut up, sit down, and drink this truth serum. This truth serum. And what followed after they sipped from this devil's juice was the sharing of their deepest, darkest secrets about what they truly believe will happen in fantasy football in 2024. I'm Pete Overzet. This is the Deposit Kingdom, and these are the hottest, spiciest, most controversial takes that you didn't know your favorite tout believed. So we got 22 takes from fantasy football thought leaders around the industry, and we are going to count these down. And to kick things off, it's none other than the BBM3 champ, legendary upsides Pat Kerrane, who showed immense restraint giving us a QB truth serum take that didn't involve Drake May.
Jayden Daniels should be a 6th round pick. I mean, this dude ran for 2 1,000-yard seasons to close out his college career. He now plays for Cliff Kingsbury. Cliff Kingsbury's Cardinals, 2019-2022, 4th most dropbacks. Also 4th most designed quarterback runs. But 4th most dropbacks. They're going to just have a ton of volume. And Jayden Daniels has the highest kept clean scramble rate on record. He turns dropbacks into runs because he loves to run. This dude cannot get enough of running. That's how we score fantasy points at the quarterback position. Why am I requiring Truth Serum to give this take? Why am I not just taking Jayden Daniels like in the 6th round or whatever? Because I think he's going to bust. I think he's going to bust. He's got a sack rate that is absurdly high. It's just behind Malik Willis, behind Sam Howell. He seems to enjoy getting hit by linebackers. He doesn't protect himself at all. I'm truly terrified. I'm terrified. He's going to get hurt, I think. But, I mean, guys, if he doesn't get hurt, what are we doing? He's barely in the top 100 picks. This dude's going to run nonstop. The volume in Washington is going to be high. He's going to run all the time. We are drafting Marvin Harrison at the 1-2 turn. We're in on rookies. We can see it. We don't need to see the NFL data now. The profile, you got the profile that I want, I'm in. Except with Jayden Daniels, we're not in. I don't know. We're messing up. I think I need to draft more. Let's have some courage. Let's have some courage.
I've also been befuddled by the Jayden Daniels price. I mean, we took Anthony Richardson in the 7th round of drafts last year. The year before, we took Trey Lance in the same range. Daniels was one of the risers we highlighted to target way back in May on the channel. And while his price did move up a couple rounds since then, it's still not enough. And coincidentally, RotoWorld's Denny Carter apparently took a strong pull from the same Truth Serum bottle as Kerrane.
Hey folks, Denny Carter here from RotoWorld and NBC Sports. My Truth Serum take for 2024 fantasy football is that Jayden Daniels is criminally underdrafted. He should be going, 3 rounds ahead of where he's going right now. I do appreciate that people are pretending that the following quarterbacks will outscore Jayden Daniels. Tua, right? Sure. Definitely, that's going to happen. Jared Goff, it's adorable. That's adorable. Even Kyler Murray, sure, we can go with that. We'll go with that. Yeah, Kyler Murray, right, is going to outscore Jayden Daniels. Anthony Richardson going as QB6 compared to QB14 for Jayden Daniels. Yes, Anthony Richardson definitely for sure going to. No, he's not. Jayden Daniels will easily score more points than Anthony Richardson. And people, what about Shane Steichen? You don't respect Shane Steichen? I mean, he's fine. He's good. I don't know. But does that lead to more fantasy points if you have a good offensive coordinator? Is that analytics? I feel like it's not analytics. I feel like a guy in Jayden Daniels who's going to be running 10, 12, 14 times a game, he's going to easily outscore all of the guys I just mentioned and has a real path to QB1 overall. And we're not drafting him because he's skinny, because he played more than a couple years in college. I don't know. Seems dumb.
Leave it to Denny to slander every other QB in the league while sharing his truth. No one does it better. On that same wavelength, newly minted best ball bro JJ Zachariason, aka the late round quarterback, says there's another Konami code rushing QB that the market is way off on.
What's up, guys? This is just going to be straight truth. That's what this is all about, right? No notes, straight from the dome, kind of in my heart. This has been on my heart for a while now. But you look at Anthony Richardson and where he goes in drafts, and then you look at Kyler Murray and where he goes in drafts, and it feels like there shouldn't be that gap. In fact, I think you could argue that Kyler Murray should go ahead of Anthony Richardson. Now, I understand in this really small sample, this 2-game sample that we have of Anthony Richardson, he dominated, he crushed, but he also saw 100% or was part of 100% of the Colts' offensive touchdowns in those games. I don't think that's going to maintain, not with Jonathan Taylor back there. Kyler Murray consistently giving us 5+ points per game on the ground as a fantasy quarterback. We know the passing numbers can be there with Kyler. You add Marvin Harrison, you get another year out of Michael Wilson, you get Trey McBride, you got our guy Greg Dortch out of the slot. Situationally, it's not that bad for Kyler. It's not bad for Anthony Richardson either. But is the 2-round gap in best ball, and even more sometimes in season-long leagues, should that be happening? I'm not sure. I'm just gonna say it. Kyler Murray over Anthony Richardson.
Man, poor Anthony Richardson. He is getting absolutely bodied in these Truth Serum videos. Tough scene. For number 19, we have Roto Grinders and the Swolecast Socrdave, who somehow gave us a Truth Serum quarterback take that doesn't involve Deshaun Watson.
Truth Serum time. Listen, the market's volatile. It shifts one way to the other. Trying to find out what happened last year so you can figure out what happens this year. That's not how it works. And this year, you got to draft one of the top 4 quarterbacks. You can draft a Caleb Williams or Jayden Daniels later to get you in, but you need one of those top 4, top two, win it, baby. Let's go.
Everything about this video from Kitchen is triggering to me, specifically the post-pickleball backdrop. But it is perfectly fitting that Kitchen's Truth Serum take is the exact opposite of mine. I've teased this before on a few other live streams, but I'm going to say it right now on the record. I think elite quarterback is bad in these large field contests. When you draft an elite QB, the top ones just don't separate from the mid-tier ones like we see at the tight end position. And not only do you have the opportunity cost of passing up on the elite tight ends, running backs like Travis Etienne, and wide receivers who help keep you in structure, you're also locking yourself into a 2-quarterback build when 3 quarterbacks have shown to be the most profitable in the playoff gauntlet because you can have those unique stacks. When those playoff pods hit, if your quarterback is a smash, the ownership is going to condense around them in a way that is going to limit your unique pieces as you move through the playoff gauntlet. It'll be virtually impossible to drag a unique elite quarterback to the finals, and if you do, your first place win equity will be diminished. So there, I said it. Elite QB is bad. That Truth Serum, that's pretty good. All right, let's stick with the quarterbacks here. All of us value hounds love getting a deal on our quarterback stacks, but ETR's Justin Herzig says there's no point to push it.
My name is Justin Herzig, and my Truth Serum is you should absolutely 100% not feel bad about reaching for your quarterback, especially in August. Have you seen the draft rooms lately? It is a war zone. Snipe after snipe after snipe. The value of getting your QB stack is greater than that extra round of value on the one-off running back that, let's be serious, what's actually the difference between Ramondre Stevenson at 80 and Andre Swift at 90? So go ahead, as I, a random guy on the internet, give you permission to reach for that quarterback without feeling bad about it.
Earlier this offseason, I would push it like crazy. I think I took Tua with a Waddle Tyreek team at 150, but there's basically zero reason to risk it in August. The easiest screener for deciding whether you can push QBs or not is by how many badges are in your rooms. Now, this won't work every single time, but in general, the less badges, the less likely people are to stay in their own lane and not snipe unstacked quarterbacks. Next up, we have Easy from the Deposit Kingdom. Easy had one of the highest regular season advance rates in BBM4 and built out a tool to help drafters quantify correlation boosts. So naturally, his Truth Serum take is about correlation.
Hey everyone, Easy here with the Truth Serum hot take. I see it in every lobby, especially some of your favorite streamers, and I'm guilty of it too. Stacking teammates without the QB. Stacking is great for both the regular season and for playoff spikes. But here's the thing. If you're stacking wide receiver without their QB, you're limiting your upside way too much in the playoffs. Let's take Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy as a random example. If you're correct, congrats, you advanced a whole bunch of teams. Now in weeks 15 and 16, you've got to finish first out of 13 and 16 person pods. My research shows when an alpha wide receiver hits, their wide receiver 2 underperforms by about 15%. Same with RB spikes. Half PPR is just 2 touchdown dependent. If you're betting on a team, you're going to want their QB or at least your week 17 opponent. Good luck in a 539 person GPP betting heavily on the Chiefs without Patrick Mahomes.
That's a spicy one for me. I think my pushback would be, we're only taking 2 to 3 quarterbacks max, and I don't want to stop correlating teammates after all of my quarterbacks are stacked. But I do like his specific example and agree, if you're loading up on expensive skill position guys, you need their quarterback to make that thesis hit. For number 15, let's head across the pond. A lot of people say Drake London is overpriced, but Tom Strachan from Fantasy Sanctuary says everyone has it wrong.
Why can't Drake London be the wide receiver 1 overall? Drake London got a massive quarterback upgrade in Kirk Cousins. He's been the 4th most accurate quarterback over the last 10 years with a 67% completion rate. London, he's disappointed in the touchdowns department. He only had 2 last year, but we know what a talent he is. We know how accurate Kirk Cousins is. He's being drafted as a top 12 wide receiver and Underdog. Last year, the top 12 wide receivers all averaged 9 touchdowns. If we gave London those 7 extra touchdowns, that's an extra 42 points. Let's conservatively say that he has a 25% target share. Kirk Cousins averages 25 completions per game. That's 6.2 completions for Drake London, 106 receptions. Only 4 wide receivers had more than that in 2023. So it's quite easy to see that even with conservative projections, we can get Drake London really close to the top quite quickly. Now let's consider that the Falcons defense, that also looks to be taking a step backwards. They've got a lack of top-end talent at most positions outside of Jesse Bates, AJ Terrell. This is going to push him into more pass-heavy scripts. That's going to keep the ball flowing to Drake London. And outside of Drake London, who are the Falcons throwing to? They've got Kyle Pitts, yeah, and then it's Darnell Mooney and Ray McLeod and a bunch of guys that you're not even drafting even in the sickest of sick drafts. Yes, Kyle Pitts can have a good season. Yes, Drake London can have an incredible season. Yes, Bijan Robinson can have a good season. Maybe he doesn't finish wide receiver 1 overall, but he can easily finish top 3.
I think this is a pretty spicy take, but I can see Tom being correct here. If Kirk Cousins is Kirk Cousins, why couldn't London deserve the price that Garrett Wilson is commanding? It's a similar leap of faith on the quarterback play improving. Next up, we have ADP chasing Sam Sherman, who found it in his heart to actually tout a player he liked, not a player he hated. And this is also a take on a round 2 wide receiver.
Since 2012, there have been only 4 wide receivers to post more than 3 yards per route run in a season. Julio Jones, Tyreek Hill, Cooper Kupp, and Nico Collins, who did it last year. Coming off a season where he absolutely exploded with CJ Stroud at quarterback, I think people are massively overthinking Nico Collins' upside, allowing him to slide to the late 2nd in fantasy football drafts. People are going to regret taking Marvin Harrison, Garrett Wilson, even Puka Nacua over Nico Collins in 2024. My truth serum take is that he's going to be a top 3 fantasy wide receiver, finishing with 12 plus touchdowns this season, and finish behind only Tyreek Hill and CeeDee Lamb. Book it.
I've been upping my Nico exposure down the home stretch of drafting, and he's now one of my most drafted players in round 2. I love that you can get him stacked up with Stroud in the late 7th when you take Nico in the early 2nd. Next up, we have Jon Warner from the Badge Bros, a man who isn't afraid to scroll the F down or buck conventional wisdom.
All right, your boy Rotorun here, aka John. Just took a douse of the Truth Serum, and I got 2 takes for you. The first one, structural. The 2-6-8-2, the 3-5-8-2s that we feel all warm and cozy drafting, they are the 4% exposure blanket of BBM. We are not aping into enough outlying variance structurally. These are great advancement type builds. These are builds in which we expect profitability, but I think we're just giving ourselves a false sense of 4% all wrapped around us. The second one, this is going to tarnish the brand so much, I hate to even say it. The fluidity of the 2nd and 3rd round this year in terms of ADP render the GMs irrelevant.
I think Jon is right here, although there's also a cohort of drafters this year who like to swing too far in the other direction, trying out weird shit for the sake of farming engagement on X. And look, the players at the end of the draft are so unlikely to hit that we probably are thinking about positional structure too much, as opposed to just drafting the archetypes of players who can smash. It's only fitting, of course, to put the Badge Bros back to back here. So this is Nez from the Badge Bros, who says our love for these young RBs has jumped the shark.
What's up, guys? This is Nez. I've been given my best ball truth serum, and the truth of the matter is, I love dusty, old, decrepit running backs this season. James Conner, Alvin Kamara, Austin Eckler in the 12th round. I can't help myself. Those points in the first half of the season are just, I need it. I need it. You can have your Marshawn Lloyds. You can have your Ray Davis and keep them. Give me Chuba Hubbard. Give me Alvin Kamara. All those guys, they're mine. I'm taking them in bunches this season. I'm sorry.
Nez is already flaunting his advance rate with this take. He's lucky I even included it after the Ray Davis slander, who I, of course, highlighted as one of my favorite picks on the board in a previous video. I think, like all things, it's a balance, right? Nez is right that what some of these dusty guys can offer your team is going way undervalued in drafts. NFL coaches don't care about the same things when it comes to running backs that we do, and I think Nez is on to something to being willing to embrace some of these dusty guys. Speaking of Ray Davis slander, everyone seems mostly indifferent on James Cook this year. Not a bad pick, not a great pick, just an okay pick, but not legendary upsides Daniel Racz. He has the hottest James Cook take I've heard yet.
Daniel Racz here. My truth serum take, if I had to take James Cook over Jahmyr Gibbs, I'd probably do it, and I do it fairly often. Gibbs, 1-2 turn, think he should probably be closer to the 2-3 turn. And I think James Cook, if he were in the 3rd round, I wouldn't bat that much of an eye. I think Jahmyr Gibbs still has to deal with David Montgomery, and even if he siphons more rushing work and green zone touches, Montgomery's still a big player there. James Cook will have to deal with Josh Allen in the red zone, but from Joe Brady's comments, I think he can get enough rushing touchdowns, and I'm not that worried about Ray Davis or Ty Johnson as the RB2, though I take a lot of Ray Davis. I think James Cook is a good enough player. The 2nd round draft capital versus pick 12 last year isn't that big of a consideration. Cook in the 5th round is one of the best prices on the board, so I would take him if I had to over Jahmyr Gibbs.
I've heard the take that Gibbs and A-Chain should be priced similarly, so I love Daniel extending the efficiency all-star comps all the way to James Cook in the 5th round, even though I'm still pissed at Daniel for getting me on that insane Keenan Allen Photoshop about him reviewing a pizza that did not actually happen, even though the fat Keenan narratives made me think it was possible. All right, let's keep this moving for our 10th truth serum take. This one comes from Chris Spags from Splash Play and Probably, and he says, even with wide receivers being all the rage, he's willing to zig this year.
If you were to give me true serum and ask me to give you a 2024 best ball take, it's one that would probably hurt me pretty deeply as somebody that's believed in the zero RB concept, believed in how important it is to take wide receivers early, especially with those wide receiver ADPs being higher than ever. But the true serum has me saying, really like RBs early this year. You have a lot of young guys making the year 1 to year 2 leap, year 2 to year 3 leap, guys in great offenses like Christian McCaffrey, guys who really just believe in a lot for whatever reason. Now they're priced cheaper than they've ever been. And even guys in the 6th round, 7th round, your Joe Mixons, your Alvin Kamaras, your Kenneth Walkers, these guys all have merits to them as well. And what would technically be a hero RB build. So I still believe in the importance of taking wide receiver early. I still want to take receivers early more often than not. I want to be loaded at receiver and not trying to push guys later on. If you give me that true serum, I'm going to tell you, really hard to not draft RBs in the first few rounds, even though it goes against everything I stand for, everything I believe for. The true serum is hit. That's what the true serum gives you.
Similar to knowing whether you can push quarterbacks in a room, to me, this is all about getting a good read on your room to see what you can pull off as far as early running backs. With more casuals in rooms right now, I do find it easier to get running backs early because some of the wide receiver targets are now not as pricey. But here's the flip side to this take, because while Spags is willing to become a running back piggy this year, stealing signals and ship chasing's Ben Gretch refuses to capitulate. In fact, he says the market hasn't pushed the running backs down far enough.
My true serum take is a little bit nuanced, but it's this idea that there's a lot of people who think they're drafting enough early wide receiver production, and they're going to fail because they didn't properly address wide receiver 4 and wide receiver 5. We know that the battle for early draft capital has been won by big wide receiver, but the falling running back values have led a lot of people to be looking for ways to get running backs on their team. So my extension truth serum take is running backs should be going even later. With the advent of 17-game schedules, teams are just treating the position way different. Outside of a few legendary profiles, I don't think the early projectable volume is going to stick throughout seasons the way it had in the past. I think late round running backs are going to score and keep that as an optimal part of builds. So the hot take is this: when we account for back-weighted production especially, there's really no difference between those early round running backs with their projectable volume and the late round running backs. Give me a world where Jalen Polk gets drafted ahead of Rashad White. Give me 12 running backs with legendary profiles in the first 8 rounds max.
I think this is an interesting take via the quantity versus quality element of how many wide receivers we're taking early. Because if our wide receiver 4s and 5s are weaker than they've historically been because they are pushed up, I can see Ben being right that you are going to need more firepower than just a handful up top, and you can still get viable running back targets super late. All right, let's get to number 8 here. There is a lot of obsessions with depth charts and starting roles right now. We are all fighting off week 1 brain after 3 weeks of the preseason, and Erik Beimfohr from Spike Week says the field thinks about these things entirely wrong.
My truth serum take is that the best picks in all of best ball are not even starters on their own real-life NFL teams. The backups, backup running backs, backup tight ends, rookie backup wide receivers are the best picks in all of best ball because the market has absolutely no idea how to price these players. If you don't have a locked-in week 1 role and week 1 projection, the market has no idea what to do with you, so they just make you cheap and toss you later in to the double-digit rounds, and we know that injuries are going to happen and chaos is going to happen. And those players are going to be the ones that jump all the way up to the top from a weekly points projection perspective and be the smashes for super, super cheap.
Building teams that embrace chaos and uncertainty will always have an edge in large field tournaments. I can't envision that ever going away. And now at number 7, I am legitimately feeling attacked here because RotoWorld's Kyle Dvorchak, who I've done a draft with on the channel previously, says we should just start drafting the best players in the late rounds.
Kyle here from RotoWorld, about to crack open another bottle of Truth Serum out in the mountains. I guess that's what the kids are calling it these days. Just thought I'd let you know, maybe cool with the Week 17 correlation. Look, I love a good Lamar, Mark Andrews, Nico Collins stack as much the next, but get into the late rounds and maybe you don't think you could try and find this year's Puka instead of locking yourself into this year's Devontae Parker because Khalif Raymond happens to play in the same game as your Christian McCaffrey team. I don't know. Look, maybe shoot for the ceiling a little bit. I get it. You're going to see Khalif Raymond run 15 routes. You're going to see DeMarcus Robinson. He plays against your Kyler Murray stack. That's real fun. You're going to see him out there running wind sprints, but when you got the chance, maybe shoot for the stars. It's a pretty top-heavy tournament, so I'm going to crack this bad boy open and enjoy drafting season.
Man, that hurts to tell the Week 17 is all that matters guy that it's overrated. But to Kyle's point, I have almost stopped trying to force bringbacks in that Baltimore-Houston game because I'm not allowing myself to draft Devontae Walker anymore. I think the lesson there is you want to correlate whenever possible, but it can't be forced if the players available aren't worth selecting in a vacuum. Speaking of Week 17 correlation, strategic galaxy braining in the best ball world has reached a fever pitch in 2024, and Neil Orfield from the Flannelverse thinks some of it is just way too fancy.
All right, you want my true serum take, so I will take my true serum. My true serum take is that I don't really understand leverage in the context of best ball, or a lot of the arguments that are made about leverage in best ball. So I think the most common example that I have heard is I drafted Bijan Robinson, so I want to draft Braylon Allen as leverage on the Breece Hall owner. I don't really get the argument. Don't we just, in that case, want Bijan Robinson to outscore Breece Hall? I mean, I'm not saying that Braylon Allen is a bad pick in that sense. I just don't understand how that is leverage. Is every player leverage on every other player, every backup leverage on every starter? Also, isn't that the team that we have to worry about the least? Like if Braylon Allen is crushing it, Breece Hall is probably not doing that great. So really, I'm more worried about the other 10 teams that I drafted against in that scenario. I don't know. I'm probably just missing something I just do not understand. That's my truth serum take.
I guess Neil wins for the best truth serum background. What a life, Neil. being the world's oldest streamer looks good on you. I think he's probably right that it's overrated in a single draft, this concept of leverage, but it does to me make sense across an entire portfolio. If you're fading CMC, for example, in every single draft and taking all of the early wide receivers instead, I'd want to have a ton of Jordan Mason and the other Niners because your path to being correct needs CMC to fail. And if that part of it happens, then you want to benefit in more ways than just one. So I guess I'd think of it less like leverage and more so building out a cohesive narrative across your portfolio. So when you're right, you're really right. Okay, we are down to our top 5 truth serum takes. But before we buckle up for this fast finish, I do want to mention 2 special offers on Underdog Fantasy right now, and it's not just for new users. For those of you who have been on Underdog Fantasy previously, who have been drafting, guess what? If you're watching this video on Friday, August 30th, you are in luck because Underdog, for a limited time, is offering a 10% deposit bonus. So anyone who's been on the site before, if you redeposit, they will give you a 10% deposit bonus. That's an awesome offer. And if you are new to Underdog, they recently upped their deposit match to a wild $1,000 deposit match. That's right, you sign up with promo code Pete and Underdog will match up to $1,000 in your account and give you an extra pick'em special to boot. That's promo code Pete when you sign up. All right, let's get to the top 5 here. And kicking us off is ETR's Mike Leone delivering a scorcher on the most polarizing tight end in fantasy football.
I'm Mike Leone here with Establish the Run, bringing you my best ball truth serum take. And if you give me the truth serum, I'm going to tell you the overall tight end 1 in fantasy for the year is none other than Kyle Pitts, even though he's the tight end 6, sometimes tight end 7 off the board in drafts. The cowards out there will duck and hide under the fact that they can take Sam Laporta and Travis Kelce, Trey McBride, Dalton Kincaid, these guys with better production last year. But Kyle Pitts is the 23-year-old who somehow in his 4th season in the NFL already has a 1,000-yard season under his belt. One of the best prospects at the position we've ever seen, now playing with a huge upgrade at quarterback, a huge upgrade at coaching staff, and not a whole ton of target competition. Kyle Pitts breaks fantasy and the best ball season this year.
I'm at 13% Pitts this year in Best Ball Mania 5, which is more than an exposure blanket, but just enough to feel devastated when he busts again. And I will say, seeing him wearing a floaty at the wave park the other day didn't ease any of these concerns. At number 4, Jakob Sanderson from Thinking About Thinking, another awesome analyst who we did a draft with earlier this season on the channel, says there will be a new wide receiver 1 in fantasy after 2024.
My name is Jakob Sanderson from Thinking About Thinking, and I've recently ingested sodium pentanol, aka True Serum, and I came to the realization that after the 2024 fantasy season, we're going to think Garrett Wilson is the best wide receiver in the NFL. Last year, 30% target share, 40% air yard share. Only 3 wide receivers did it. Veteran elite talents, Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, and sophomore season Garrett Wilson. Over 95th percentile success rate versus man coverage. And most importantly to me, when I just watch him, he's what I would call in basketball a 3-level scorer, right? He can win the ball down the field with speed and ball skills. He can separate from any coverage in the intermediate of the field. And he's an absolute dominant threat, yards after catch with his quick twitch ability. Give him 20th best quarterback play in the NFL, one-time God, and I promise you, he's going to light this world on fire in 2024.
Similar to Tom's take about Drake London, it's always been the quarterback play holding him back. So it's put up or shut up time for Garrett Wilson. I think he's either going to be a top 3 overall pick next year or a plug your nose 5th round pick. Don't screw this up, Aaron Rodgers. All right, we're down to the final 3, and most of these hot True Serum takes have revolved around a single player, but leave it to RotoViz's Shawn Siegele to tear down the entire ADP industrial complex with his True Serum take.
We all prefer to pay less as opposed to pay more, but if I'm placed under extreme interrogation, I'm probably going to admit that I believe the pursuit of ADP value as an end in itself threatens to break your structures and wall off some of the players who are most important to make those structures work in any given draft. In fact, I would prefer to permit myself 1 tactical reach per draft in order to hit on the right combination of players to really launch those most dominant structures. one of which is probably 0 RB. Good luck, everybody.
Man, this is a tough way for me to learn that Shawn is judging me every time he hears one of my value hound. Oh! I do think Shawn is right though, and he often talks about the concept of an ADP value and a rankings value. If a guy is overvalued by 2 rounds and he slips around, that doesn't mean he is a value. I generally recommend that most people respect the market because it is really efficient on Underdog. But Shawn specifically is so good at identifying outliers and league winners that it's hard to argue with his approach because it's all analytically backed and he's consistent with how he views fantasy player archetypes and breakouts. And I think it's particularly applicable to these large field tournaments that require perfection to win millions of dollars. Okay, number 2 here. And some of these Truth Serum takes have been a direct attack on my bags. I'm looking at you, Kyle Dvorchak, but not this one from legendary upside Sackreligious, who we just did a video with. Here's a very fun comparison for people who are mad they can't draft Taysom Hill at tight end on Underdog.
For those of you that are sad that you can't draft Taysom Hill on Underdog anymore, don't worry. I've got good news. You can draft a player with all of the single week upside that Taysom Hill has, but a much higher floor and quite possibly an even higher ceiling. It's going to come in a similar way where he's going to be getting scheme touches, he'll take some carries, he'll run some routes. I don't even think we know all the ways that this player is going to be involved yet. What I do know is he's going to be involved a lot because the Raiders spent an early first-round pick on Brock Bowers, and he has the single game ceiling of Taysom Hill, but he's going to be playing more snaps, running more routes. In fact, Brock Bowers is almost like if you took the Saints' entire tight end room and added up Taysom Hill and Jawan Johnson's production into one player. And to be frank, the ceiling's probably even higher than that. So if you miss Taysom Hill as a tight end on Underdog, just click Brock Bowers.
Bowers is my most drafted tight end right now, so from your lips to God's ears, Sackreligious, hopefully he will hear you out despite your username. Okay, it's time for number 1, and we had to reserve this spot for the king of hot takes, our favorite short king, Davis Mattek. And if you didn't think Davis was going to deliver a scorching hot take involving a Chiefs player, then I don't know what to tell you.
All right, guys, my truth serum take for 2024 is that Xavier Worthy should just be going ahead of Malik Neighbors. I mean, honest to God, Xavier Worthy at the 2-3 turn, he's the fastest player in NFL history. He's playing with Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes is going to win the MVP. He's going to go, 5,500 yards, 50 touchdowns. I think Xavier Worthy can literally score like 16 touchdowns this year. That really is my unadulterated truth serum. Seems crazy on the surface, but if you really think about it, if you close your eyes, you get into your mind's eye, you can see that Xavier Worthy's going to score more fantasy points than Malik Neighbors. And honestly, would you really be surprised if Mahomes' fastest wide receiver ever scores more points than Marvin Harrison Jr.? I don't think you'd be that surprised. Open your third eye.
Xavier Worthy was a 9th round pick in the big board before the NFL draft. He's now a 5th round pick in BBM5. Davis takes him in the 4th round, and it sounds like he would be willing to take him in the late 2nd if he had to. That's the kind of escalation that can only be facilitated by Truth Serum. What a time to be alive. It will be fun to revisit all of these hot takes and Truth Serum takes at the end of the year. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. We're going to have a few more videos out before the season starts, and then we will have weekly Battle Royale strategy videos every single Friday. We'll get you guys prepared for the drafts, all of the gems, the low rostered players, all of that good stuff to help you continue to crush your drafts on Underdog Fantasy. Good luck, and we'll see you guys around.